brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And this really is a remarkable privilege, especially today, to be able to host in our show, a chance to speak both to Miss Patty Ebanks and Miss Suzanne Bothwell. A wonderful opportunity for us to share with our community, and we invite you to stay tuned. We'll tell you more when we come back.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us as we invite you to share with us now in the studio, the good company of Miss Patty Ebanks. Ma'am, it's always a pleasure to be in your company. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
And that, great spirit and intellect of Miss Suzanne Bothwell.
Hello, Dwayne. How are you?
If I may, in the presence of, Miss Pat, say to you, Miss Suzanne, you look at parents and then you look at the siblings and you see a family of not just humility and honor, but people with some great insight and just incredible smartness, as they say. So, yes, Suzanne, wow. I see why your husband smiles every day, man. I mean, but it is, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, because I believe that in our society we have wonderful people, have wonderful opportunities and resources. Not just what is here and grown, but what we can, introduce to our society as people sort of come and live and work amongst us, or our connections, and we bring people to our shows to share their experiences, their testimonies, sometimes their challenges, but their successes as well. Exactly. And as I was looking at what you're going to share with us today, another opportunity for us to celebrate what is probably for some too easy to overlook because it's too close to home, as it were, Miss Pat.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Mm-hmm. See that? Best be sometimes tell the truth, Not always, but sometimes. Help us, Miss Pat. Good afternoon to you again, and tell us, because this is fascinating.
Right. So, Mrs. Bothwell and I are here because the court, the judicial administration, has sponsored an event that the Northern Caribbean University Alumni Association is spearheading. And so we are here to talk about the joint initiative between the NCU Alumni Association and judicial administration. So that's why we have the chief officer here for judicial administration, who has been working very closely with us. But first of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what the whole initiative is about, because the court initiative is a part of that, of a 5-day youth outreach initiative. And it will feature, she's an American 3-time Grammy-nominated singer and motivational speaker who has won national acclaim in the United States, not only for her voice. She's won a lot of awards for her voice, been recognized consistently since she was 16 years old. She's only 22. She was 22 last month. So she she will be here for 5 days. She arrives on Tuesday the 25th for a round of engagements. She's going to Northwood Prison. She's going to Fairbanks Prison. She's going to Cayman Academy. She had been scheduled to go to the two major government schools, high schools, but unfortunately they had a change in their schedule, and will be heavily involved with media to spread her message. And her key message is that is to unleash that young people have a very deep and unlimited potential. They're just not tapping into it. So her message is unleash your potential, but at the same time, hold fast to your values. So we're looking forward. And then the week will end with her appearance at the court. And Mrs. Bothwell will be able to tell you about that. But the finale will be at a concert, a gospel concert, at the Lions Club on Sunday, June 30th. And we are planning that the roof is going to be raised. I don't know, Lions Center is going to do after that. But
well, they renovate.
Yes.
It's something that, if I may at some point ask of you, and not only that I'm asking forgiveness if I say it improperly, but guidance. I have this view of our young people, and I still would like to consider us, the three of us, still as young. Young at heart, even young and energetic, enthusiastic. But there's something about our young. So maybe first I could say, are we talking teens, adolescents? Are we talking people under 25, under 30? And the reason why I share that is that in this category, in this era, these young people are phenomenal. Ms. Pat, you mentioned untapped potential. They're concerned about the environment as they're concerned about the political, as they're concerned about education, as economic, as health. They're so involved and they're so willing to chat. One thing at some point, whether it's apt today or not, how are we as adults, parents, teachers, as policymakers, as the adults, the leaders in our community, are we embracing and nurturing them? Are we encouraging them? Are we helping to guide them? Okay, yes, you're interested in this thing and you want to advocate for this thing, but let's help you not to lose your voice, not just only to find your voice, but to guide you so that it's an audience. Right. And sometimes, unfortunately, I think the courts, when they come in, we only see the
negative, the sadness.
See that, Ms. Potter? By Ms. Potter.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I'll defer to Ms. Pat on if I get it wrong, but I know that the lecture itself, the meeting at the court on the Friday the 28th of June, is meant to be for teenagers. About 14, I would say, to about 17.
14 to about 18, but we'll take up to 21.
Yeah, exactly. Young people.
21 teen.
Yeah.
Good number.
So the Chief Justice will be there. I think will be our acting Chief Justice at the time. And Jacqueline Carr will be there, and it will be really centered around her message. But the court will use this opportunity to discuss how the court intervenes in the lives of people in our society to help make it better. I think the traditional view of the court is that it's almost like an ivory tower. Yeah. And, it's edicts that come down from on high. And it's an extremely formal environment, which is still a formal environment. But what is important is about what law plays in society. Law and society are very closely connected. The court usually is to regulate, to deal with regulation of certain things in our society. But what has happened in the modern day, all around the world, in all court systems, is that the role of the courts have changed. We don't deal just with, in a criminal sphere, the punitive aspects of punishment. We have to recognize that a whole person is coming before the court. Somebody who has been damaged, somebody who, as you say, has not been able to realize their full potential. And therefore, the court creates an environment through whichever means that person comes through that allows them the opportunity. It is only those, even in the most egregious cases of murder, manslaughter, there are social inquiry reports that looked about what has caused this person to get from where they are to where they are now. And I know it's quite early in the program, but I wanted to share just to give it a real life example of how the court through our rehabilitative work and the engagement that we have with other government programs, working with the person in court cases, how we can transform their lives. I have to anonymize everything, but this is a client who participated in one of our diversionary court programs, and it was a thank you, December 2018, and the person was in the drug court. Thank you for giving me a second chance at life. I'm not proud of crime that I committed, but if that didn't happen, I would not be getting the help I received. I was depressed, suicidal, and full of doubt. Thanks to you, I remained drug-free since 2016. I also seek counseling when I start to feel overwhelmed, and I learned my lesson about the consequences of crime. Please continue to influence others like myself. I know that the public does not know much about what the court does and what the government departments do. And I would say it's perhaps our fault that we are not publicizing what we are doing to contribute to the betterment of society. But the persons such as the individual who wrote this to the judicial administration did so because they had the intervention of a magistrate, intervention of a social worker, intervention of a probation officer, intervention of a counselor. And this is a journey for them to strip away all of those negative things that have bombarded their life, perhaps from childhood, right? And to be able to find who they are as a person and be able to, wherever they are now, to start walking the journey of realizing their full potential, recognizing that part of that journey is to fall. And that's what our rehabilitative programs are about. We recognize that it is a journey. So you're not going to be perfect in the first round, but you will fall less. And to understand that we are always there to support you.
All right. When we come back from our break, let's talk more about it, because I think this whole event could help the community to appreciate the importance of working hand in hand, and how maybe to some extent our perception of the courts, there has to be that punitive element, but maybe if there is not just only the restorative but also the deterrence that occurs, and as a society we start to appreciate, kindness, consideration, compassion can play a role, so that we don't even have to get before the courts, as it were.
Exactly.
All right. I have the great company of Miss Patty Banks, Miss Suzanne Bothwell, as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. And then at 1 o'clock, I don't know sometimes, and I don't think I plan the programs. I pray that they're divinely led. We have some other young people who wasn't part of this discussion. They're going to come in and they're going to talk about some of the things that are important to them. Yes. So I'm looking at that. It's a separate and distinct sort of discussion, but who knows?
Sort of an extension.
It might just be. It might just be. Yeah. All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Sometimes having a middleman is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to insurance. Do you know that when it comes to cost, ease, speed, and peace of mind, insurance brokers ranked higher than when customers buy direct? So, for all your insurance needs, call Fidelity Insurance. We're the middleman you want. Call us today at 949-7822. Fidelity. We're good for you.
It's time to stop giving dads tools and ties for Father's Day. Dads want to relax just as much as you. Get the ultimate chillaxing beach kit for Father's Day at Savannah Pharmacy. Beach shorts, shirts, flip-flops, water shoes, goggles, towels, and sunblock. Let Dad kick back and relax this Father's Day. Gift baskets, including domino sets, coffee mugs, and so much more, are also available. Get all of your Father's Day purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
I love my daddy, yes sirree.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now, you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
Headlines. With the latest headlines. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines. Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate Miss Patty Ebanks for helping us to put this discussion together, and Miss Suzanne Bothwell for joining us. And as you were sharing, see, when I first saw the name as Good West Bay, I say, Miss Suzanne called her, Jacqueline Carr. I said, Jacqueline. So it's Jacqueline, right? Not Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, yeah.
Yeah, my understanding is Jacqueline.
I know, but prior to that, I was saying, Jacqueline.
Well, it's kind of looks that way, but everybody has a twist on their own name, so that's how she.
And I try hopefully in saying that people will say, "Oh no, it's Jacqueline." No, it's Jacqueline. That's the way. But she is. I've seen a few other things. This is one of the good things young people show you. You can go online, apparently, you can find all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. Susan being one of the young people, she's not.
Yes, you are, Susan.
Ooh.
He's not to tell you otherwise.
I miss her when she's gone. I give her a harder time when she's back, so she can't win too much. But
just a couple of comments on something that were said.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the court event is on the Friday afternoon, the 28th, and that unfortunately is invitation only.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is that we have limited space. So the court, Mrs. Bothwell and her staff, they have been writing to over 50 youth organizations, inviting them to send nominations, and we really hope that we're going to have that court filled and overflowing to the one next door. And also that, just a comment on the messages that many young people in our society are receiving are consistently negative. There are a lot of people doing a lot of good work with youth, but they are also a large segment of our students who are getting consistently negative messages. You're lazy, and you don't have the ability. And a lot of the students are misplaced. They actually have a lot of ability, but for various reasons, background and so on, they're not developing it. So this whole initiative is about inspiring young people to reach into themselves and to have more faith in their abilities. Mm-hmm. So Jacqueline Carr travels the United States, where she has been touching and transforming lives. So we're looking for young people, and we especially want to get some of those young people that society tends to be, pushing out onto the margins. We want them to be there. We have invited Francis Bodden. They're bringing in a whole contingent. We've made complimentary tickets. Oh, sorry, that's the concert.
It's all one the same.
They're coming to the concert, yes. A contingent are coming to the concert. There will be representatives at the Grand Court event for Bonaventure and Francis Bodden. So we really encourage young people to come because they will be seeing a young person like themselves who has grown up in a society that is also sending negative images. He's an African American, sending negative messages to that segment, and who has risen above it. But remarkably, despite her achievements. Despite her background, she's risen to the pinnacle, and despite being at the pinnacle, she is she has remained faithful to the Christian values that she was brought up with. And one of the things you'll see, Jacqueline, if you go on the internet, is how she dresses. Very modest dresser. And that's one of the reasons we chose her. We also chose her because she's also an author. She's written a book, You Will Win. And so we want young people to get that message. You will win. So that's what the court event is directed at, and that's what the concert is directed at.
See, something that, as Miss Pat was sharing out, Miss Susan, I was thinking of in high school, our motto, and I don't know if it still is, I guess I should check and confirm, hold fast that which is good. The scriptural motto, right? Is that still the motto of the high school, right? And when I was, as you were sharing, I was thinking back to that. The notion that maybe still in our society, hopefully it's changing, we look at young people and, we see them, and if they're advocating for something, maybe it's a change, maybe they're challenging something, asking, well, why is this? Why can't it be better?
Positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they want to learn. Are we encouraging them? Do we say, oh, that's good? Or we say, look at you, you young radical upstart. Are our words such that we start to kill their spirit?
Yeah. I really believe that there's some amount, a lot of that going on. Mrs. Butler?
I think that I think the children are receiving mixed messages. I think that in certain environments, depending on the environment, they're able to be open and question. And I do see a lot happening a lot in the schools. I had a bunch of 8-year-olds from Bordentown Primary, 35 of them who came, very short notice, but we certainly accommodated them. And they had a lot of questions about the court and magistrates and judges and what you do. And we had 3 of our magistrates fielding left, right, and centre all of these questions from all of these 8-year-olds, and they were phenomenal. And it was so inspiring to me that this is our future. But then at the same time, I also appreciate that there are other children who do not have that benefit. They are not in that specific environment, and they still live by do as I say and not as I do. And you are to be seen, not heard. And you're stupid, or you're an idiot. That's the term that people would use, and totally crush their self-esteem before they're even fully able to develop their self-esteem. And so that is, unfortunately, it is those cases, the extreme cases, that the court sees through our various children's courts. And children who we see 2 types of child. We see the child who will react in a way externally, and they will start skipping school, they will start stealing, they will start doing drugs at an early age, unfortunately. On the other end of the spectrum is a child who becomes withdrawn, the child who will attempt suicide, the child who will cut, self-harm. We have children who are subject to domestic violence and physical abuse, emotional and psychological abuse. And it's usually because the family environment is so dysfunctional or so frayed that the child really is victimized. And I think to a large extent, the parents don't actually appreciate how their behavior is impacting the development and welfare of their child until something happens. And it's so unfortunate. Thankfully, we have mandatory reporting now through the children's law. And so we are capturing a lot more children who we otherwise would not have captured. And we do have improved but not perfect support facilities in terms of psychologists available that they can see, and more opportunities to be in a safer environment. And this is why social services, the DCFS, asked for foster parents, because there are unfortunately times when the situation is so dire that a child has to be removed from the environment temporarily until the parents can sort themselves out, and until the child themselves can help to heal some of those wounds that they're experiencing. Yeah.
And I think too that Ms. Pat-
there are some, there's some extreme cases, right, and removed from homes, but there are also a lot of children who are sailing under the radar. They're not being noticed by the school, and they're not performing, and some of that has to do from the frustration that exists in the home, that it may not be violent, but it may be that their focus is so much on getting ahead, working 2 jobs, and the children are not getting the kind of environment that would help them to perform at their maximum. I mean, we see some Caymanians who are being recognized in these billboards, so we know that their parents out there who are doing well and who are working very hard, and their children are being inspired to do well. But they are unfortunately a little bit of an exception. We have to bring many more of our students who are escaping detection and who are just not developing all that they can to be all that they can be. And throughout history, we have these people too who, people told them they couldn't do something, and they went ahead. That only made them do it. But they're different kinds of personalities, and so that our adult assessment of our children not always accurate,
Something that Ms. Susanna shared and you alluded to, that nurturing environment, are we creating it not only in our homes, but with the greatest respect in our society, in our schools, where our children spend a greater part of the time either being impacted by it or affected it in some way. So if that child in the classroom, for instance, isn't able to respectfully, be guided how to ask a question, I would like to know why this is when this happens. Okay, sometimes we need to understand how to ask a question, but we need to also know how to respond to the question that's asked. And if it's like, well, you sharpen, you stupid thing, and
to be patient.
Patient.
That's how they learn. That's how they learn. I have 2 nieces, and when I see them, develop, and I see their little stages of development and the kind of questions that they ask, and sometimes you're absolutely exhausted, but you just have to say, okay, well, you try to explain to them. I know it's with a lot of single parents, it's very hard, and people who are stretched to the limit with their time. But I just want to speak, Dwayne, about why the court is involved. Because some people might feel it's a very strange thing for the court to be involved. I believe Miss Patricia reached out to the Chief Justice and explained to him what was happening. And because of our specialty courts program, because we have a number of them, we have the drug court, we have the mental health court, we have a domestic violence diversionary program, we have those programs, and we deal with the whole family. We deal with the individual, but we end up dealing with the family. And he thought it was a very good segue into and a connection to deal with basically the people that we support and we help in our society through the court program. The court gives the public are one of our stakeholders. We have a number of stakeholders, a number of clients, I call them. You might think it's just the lawyers and the litigants, but no, it's the society and the members of the public. I actually realized that, people actually can end up in a court system from cradle to grave.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're born, if there's an issue of custody or maintenance, the little child's issues are dealt with by the magistrates. If there's a family issue, you're dealt with. There's a mental health issue, and you offend the law, you're dealt with. If you die, all of your assets have to be probated through the courts. So we play an intricate role in the society, and we do guest lectures at the beginning of every year for the profession. Mm-hmm. And so this is actually the first time that we are actually reaching out to a very specific stakeholder group, which is our young people, to provide a guest lecture, create a platform and environment where they can come in, they can learn a little bit about the court, but more importantly, they can be exposed to a person who can help, as Ms. Patricia said, realize their full potential, be inspirational to them, for them to come together as a big group of young people and then go out into our society and be motivated to do everything that they feel that they can do to become a better person, and the person who really, with all due respect, how God intended them to be.
Yes.
So that is what... and we're quite happy to support this.
All right. So when we come back, let's tell us more about it, Ms. Pat. We've got a final break to take.
Yeah. And I just want to say thanks to the Chief Justice Smelly, for being, receptive to us and really coming aboard on this. It's a real tribute to him.
Yes. All right. Well, when we come back, we'll get a chance to tell you more about the concert as well. Hopefully, invite you to get some tickets equally. So please stay tuned. Remember, right after the 1 o'clock news, because it's no more longer midday. I was thinking right after the 1 o'clock news, we got some other youth who are going to join us and tell us. Excited to hear from them as well. Hey, focus on our youth. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
Brit K protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
Brit K, where people come first.
At Powerhouse Gym, where you feel like home in a multicultural energy environment for all. They are dedicated to helping you achieve your fitness goals. Whether you have decided to get in shape, train for a specific sport, boost your energy levels, or even look your best for a special day. With a variety of sports options, group fitness classes, CrossFit outdoor gym. They provide personal trainers and equipment. Powerhouse Gym, King Sports Center, offers a complete health and recreational environment for the only sports and recreational facility of its kind in the Cayman Islands. For more information, call 946-5464. Email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. Powerhouse Gym, King Sports Center. Serious results, period.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Across the Caribbean, our competitors have built piers that give cruise ship passengers a better arrival and departure experience. How can we expect to compete if we don't meet passengers' expectations?
Looking forward, looking bright.
Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Have you heard of Taster's Choice Cafe? Home of the $3 special? With small breakfast and lunch starting at only $3. You heard right, starting at only $3. Also serving full menu options including curry goat, oxtail, ackee and saltfish. Fill your belly without emptying your wallet at Taster's Choice, 351 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, across from Ashley Furniture in Industrial Park. Or call 945-9113. Taster's Choice, home of the $3 special.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today. Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us, and thanks especially to Ms. Pat Ebanks and Ms. Suzanne Bothwell for joining us. And as I look at this whole sort of, 5 days of ministry, if I could put it that way.
It is, yeah.
And I hope people that hear that word don't take it and interpret it in the wrong way. We go to conferences as professionals, and it's 3, 4, 5 days, and you're learning stuff. Well, this is the same thing. How do we? It's even better. Right?
We're human beings, and I mean, we have to tap into the thing that is beyond us.
Right.
There's the things that are beyond us as individuals, and in this case, Kaylin is a Christian young lady who was hold fast. We are a Christian country, and there are certain core values that she's espousing, and I think for those children who are being invited, I think they align with that, and for those who are not, there's always something you can take away that is positive that will help to inspire your life.
Well,
we are a very ecumenical society.
So I have a sense sometimes that we're on the edge,
the cusp,
right?
Yeah.
And we could go in either direction, right?
The precipice, huh?
Yeah, sort of that. And so we really need to, and at no time in our history was there more a need to inspire young people to rise above circumstances, to become all that they could be, and to help to restore our Caymanian culture.
Yes.
Because that's how we were brought up. And we're moving away from that. And I think we need to grab hold of the situation and, bring people back to the values that we cherished. And that's what this 5-day week is all about. And by the way, at the end of the of her, she'll make a brief presentation, so it won't be very long at the court. And then it will be followed by a reception at which they will have an opportunity to speak directly to Jacqueline and to get to know her on a more personal level. And when it comes to the concert, we're showcasing young people. We have made an effort to make sure that from the MCs and the local singers to the whole production will be featuring young people, so that we can see that young people have talent, they have capability. So the MC for the concert on Sunday evening, and that concert begins at 6:30, is a high school senior. Her name is Colinda Rodrigo McGarvey Sterling, and at Georgetown, she's co-MCing with Georgetown Primary School, young Georgetown Primary School teacher, Kerryon Williams. And by the way, all of the proceeds from the concert will go towards a scholarship to attend Northern Caribbean University. Now, government does grant scholarships to NCU, and NCU is, along with UII, the only two universities in Jamaica that now have institutional accreditation, meaning that they're fully recognized and they're able to, recognized by employers and other universities and so on. And 1 year we had 14 Caymanians there. And the interesting thing is that 1 year at many U.S. universities cost the same as 4 years at NCU. So it represents.
I'm an alumni of UV.
Yes.
In Jamaica and Barbados.
Yeah. And it represents, this is an opportunity for government to have some budget savings by our raising the profile of NCU and NCU's commitment to ethical values. It's part of the whole environment. As someone says, I think the Chief Justice said to me, one of the reasons that he's interested in this is because he thinks, he knows NCU well, and he thinks that NCU is one of the leading lights in Jamaica. Now, I know the other universities are working towards institutional accreditation, but as the last time I heard, those were the only two universities. So all our proceeds from the concert will go towards a scholarship and to raise the profile. We will have the president of NCU will be coming in for the weekend. He'll be at the court.
Okay.
Yes. We won't have a chance to speak, but we'll recognize him. Yes. And he'll be visiting Cayman Academy to talk to students there about opportunities at NCU. And he'll speak very briefly at the concert, where he will have a booth. The university, he's bringing in an admissions officer who will be available at the concert at a booth to talk to young people about the opportunities there.
And this is important, I think, as people recognize, I think what Ms. Pat was sharing, that the society as a whole is at whether crossroads, precipice, where you want to see it. And something that MLA Bernie Bush has said often publicly, that many people in their communities perhaps are not feeling as if they're a part of the progress, the prosperity, this thing that is happening. So will they try to see if they can get a part of it in a civil way, or will they, as he puts it, just gonna mash it up, And either way we go, if we take the turn in the wrong direction, it's going to be to all of a detriment.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why the court many years ago recognized that we have to change the way we are dealing with justice in the Cayman Islands, because the person coming before the court who's committed the crime has done an awful thing, because they have offended or hurt people or in some instances killed people. But when you look at the journey they took to get to that stage in their life, it is an extremely sad story. And there were a number of missed opportunities for our society and people who knew these people in our society to intervene, just that one intervention to take that person under your wing when they were a child. We have big brothers, big sisters. We have a lot of youth organizations. Just to have someone to be a mentor, to put them in the safety net of a youth club or some kind of club, so they're not on the streets being groomed by adults, and it's really, really pathetic. And some of the people who are in our courts are there because they're coming from a generational dysfunction. And we see them in the courts graduate. They graduate from our juvenile justice system starting at 10 years old, and they matriculate immediately into the adult justice system. And they're treated very differently. It comes as an absolute shock to them when they're before a magistrate, who they were before that magistrate when they were a child. But they're treated as an adult, and they're treated very differently. And so what we're trying to do is close the gaps between how we deal with adults, how we deal with children, and also look at the whole person. All of the anger, all of the violence that is happening is because they have very poor coping skills. They have anger management issues. And so I'm very pleased that the government, and I encourage the government to continue to fund the programs to a wide extent, so that when these persons come before the court, we can quickly shift them to the programs where they can deal with their anger management issues, matriculate out of these programs, so that we can deal with them at the end. And a lot of our rehabilitative programs do not result in criminal convictions, because we want to be able to restore that person in a better state than when they came in.
All right. Well, hopefully, this will be a one initiative, Ms. Pat, that causes the wider community to take stock and have a rethink of our approach, and as you just said, to extol those Caymanian values and virtues, and to see it that if that ethos that we once celebrated isn't again championed in our society, we're all for the great loss. In closing, Ms. Pat, your thoughts, ma'am? How do we get tickets as well?
I wanted to say that we've priced this as a family event, because a celebrity or an artist of Jacqueline's caliber commands quite a bit of, incentive to get here. And but we've priced it. We could have priced it a lot higher, but we wanted it to be within reach of families, and a lot of that is due to our sponsors. We're very grateful to Ministry of Health, Environment and Culture. I mean, they saw this as a cultural week and a cultural event, and they have come aboard and supported it. Judicial Administration has supported the Westin Hotel, Lions Club. I can't speak enough about Lions Club. Can't speak enough about Judicial Administration. Cayman National Bank, the very same. I mean, they are not only a sponsor, but they are actively promoting within their bank. An insurance company named Oxbridge Re, and Mr. Ezard Miller. He's also a sponsor and Brady's attorney at law. And there are also some individuals who didn't want to have their names in lights, who are also sponsors. And we're very grateful to all of them. And by the way, children because it's a family event, we have made children under 10 free of cost. Tickets are available at a number of outlets. at the Cayman Islands Conference Office on Walker's Road. They have a store in there, and they're available in there. Value Med Pharmacy, Christian Enlightenment Center, Bellagio Salon and Spa, Campbell's Auto Repairs and Sales, Funky Tangs Limited, and Funky Tang and Christian Enlightenment are always those people who help to sell our tickets, and the Physiotherapy Center in Rankins Plaza. So you can pop in there and get your tickets before they're all gone. They're not unlimited, and we don't have unlimited space, unfortunately. So, we need to get your tickets quickly as possible. And remember, when you support the concert, you support the Christian education, and not just at NCU, but there are many Christian universities that offer, an opportunity to develop and to sustain the ethical values of our young people, and that are more in line with how Caymanians were raised. Right. So this is a way to keep those values alive.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Pat and Ms. Suzanne, for joining us, and
always
hopefully,
a pleasure.
We'll get a chance to continue this dialogue as it is, important for our community. So, get our tickets now, and we'll do our best to help you to promote it.
Thank you
for the concert on the 30th at the very least.
Thank you for having us.
It's an honor, ma'am. Honestly, it's good to see Ms. Suzanne, but she'll agree with you. Having you in the company,
always a pleasure to be in the company, Ms. Patricia.
Indeed. And to our listeners, after the headline news at 1, please join us. Got a couple of good students in the studio. I want to talk to you about what they have on their minds. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
An Appleby attorney has been named Private Client Lawyer of the Year. A prominent figure in the private client and trust sector, Appleby partner Carlos de Serpa Pimentel has been named Lawyer of the Year in Who's Who Legal 2019 Awards. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. The only words we can say to veterans are thank you. Theresa May has told a ceremony to mark the 75th anniversary of the Normandy invasion. Her words were echoed by French President Emmanuel Macron, who told D-Day veterans gathered in northern France that we owe them our freedom. The day of commemorative events began with a lone piper marking the moment the first UK soldiers were ashore. A former nurse has been convicted of murdering 85 patients at 2 hospitals in northern Germany and handed a life sentence. Judge Sebastian Berman described Niall Hogel's killing spree as incomprehensible. Hogel, who is already serving life for 2 murders, administered lethal dosages of heart medication to people in his care between 1995 and 2005. And a woman has appeared on Brazilian TV to go public with accusations that she was raped by star footballer Neymar. Najila Trindade, who filed a rape allegation last Friday, told SBT Brazil the incident in a Paris hotel on May 15th was an assault together with rape. Neymar has denied the accusations. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman. Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really?
Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory-breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecasts, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Keeping cool in Cayman is essential, but can be costly. Making small adjustments to your household can lead to big savings and help protect the environment. Keep your blinds, curtains, doors, and windows closed when it's hot outside. Using a fan instead of AC will use less power and can cost a mere third of air conditioning. And when using a fan, rotate it anti-clockwise, which will blow the cool air downward, saving even more energy and money. Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning, and Facebook page for more tips on alternatives to AC and be an energy advocate.
Did you know Georgetown's revitalization goes hand in hand with a new cruise terminal? The project will create jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities for Caymanians, and Georgetown will once again be a hub for visitors and locals alike, a capital we can all enjoy. Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, and it's a pleasure. I must share that if I even had planned it even better, I don't think I could plan it any better. The conversation earlier with the excellent sort of partnership with the Judicial Administration, and to have Ms. Pat Ebanks and Ms. Suzanne Bothwell to join us to talk about how important it is to nurture youth, to hear from them, to give them a voice, to guide them, to counsel them, to allow them to be able to explore, to test the waters, as it were, and to ensure that we as the adults in our society are able to give them the counsel and the guidance, but in a safe, nurturing environment. Well, I'm very, very grateful to be able to welcome to our studio the leaders of Protect Our Future, and it is remarkable to see these fine young people, some of whom, we'll look at the gentleman and say, wow, they're handsome too. But I won't say that, because but if I might, I was thinking I would introduce you, but Richard, if I could maybe start with you first, ask just a brief introduction, and then Miss Olivia, and then perhaps Michaela, and then Jack, just go on. So Richard, start with you first. A brief introduction, and name, your favorite chocolate. No, just kidding.
Well, my name's Richard Weber. I'm 18 years old. I was born and raised in Cayman, and over the past few months, me and the lovely people that you'll be listening to towards today.
Including Jack?
Including Jack. Well, we all banded together and formed the group Protect Our Future in order to advocate for a future Cayman that is sustainable, which can push forward into and can push and protect our heritage and our environment that we call home.
Okay, thank you. Miss Olivia?
My name is Olivia Zimmer. I'm also 18, and I'm from here. And as Richard kind of introduced why we're here, I had the pleasure of working with these lovely people over the past couple of months to kind of protect our future, if you will.
If you will, yeah, we will, definitely. And Miss Michaela?
I'm Michaela Corin. I am 16, and I was not born here, but this place has become my home and will always be my home. And I love it, and I love everything about it. And that's why we are Protect Our Future, and we're trying to protect what we have. And I'm so grateful for all of these people as well.
Thank you very much. Jack?
Hi, I'm Jack Paolini, and I'm 18 as well. Compared to the other people, I think I'm a newbie to the island. I mean, I've only been here for 3 years, but I definitely consider it home as well. And I've been so lucky to work with these people and form great relationships with them and also other youth on island in order to, again, protect our future. So
now I'm going to ask of you to help me for a couple of reasons. Mm-hmm. One, I never, ever openly intend to be offensive or disrespectful, especially with young people. So anybody under 90, I try not to be. But equally for us as a society to start to appreciate how important it is to have people to share. If we're seemingly in a democracy, you should be able to say something, someone else should be able to agree or disagree, and hopefully there's an understanding that we're going to be civil in our discussions. And it may get heated, maybe an exchange, but the next day we meet and say, okay, that may go out of hand, but we're civil. Hopefully that is the premise under which we operate. And then secondly, this notion that, I think back to my generation, so to speak. We formed groups, try to play music, we did sports. There were some of us that were actively involved with certain things, but not to the extent that we're seeing it today. If it's opportune time, if it's appropriate, I'll ask you, what do you think is the change? Is it that more things are happening locally and globally? Global warming, threats to the environment, political maneuverings, economic consideration. Are there things, are we just more aware that whether we're in China, Canada, or Cayman, some of the same things are affecting all of us, no matter where we are, so we're more connected? Or is there something else? No, we can talk to that if you wish, and if you do, jump right in.
Well, I mean, I'll speak for me personally because it has really been somewhat of a combination of both local issues happening in Cayman, crucially is the cruise port referendum, and it's the Barker's acquisition that's been going on. But I can't help but also notice the international movements that have been going on. Whether it's in Europe with the with the Fridays for Future movement started by Greta Thunberg, or if it's in America with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Green New Deal. It's really the combination of both these international and local issues that have been kind of converging together, which has led me personally towards really putting my whole passion into this movement because I want to see a Cayman that is sustainable for both today and for tomorrow. Okay,
and I won't sidetrack it because I'll ask each of you if you wish to weigh into what you shared, but at some point maybe come back to Cortez in that two things. We're seeing that more of us as young people are inclined, and I'll say us young people, unless you guys disagree, I'm young too, okay? Okay, all agree. No, but I think we need to have the recognition that we're in this together with a vested interest. And I'll come back to Cortez from the perspective of what is she may or may not be representing, what is she saying, how accurate is what she's sharing, to what political leanings and slantings and the like. But more importantly, how it's so evident that despite our ages, we are aware of these things. Is it in Seattle recently? I think it's Seattle. The court case against the U.S. government and say, hey, you knew for 50 years that this thing is affecting us. Young people again are taking the government to court. Another thing that says you're affecting our future, our quality of life, right? So, are those, Ms. Olivia, from your perspective, the whys and wherefores that the young people today seem to be more vocal, and not to go back to the 60s and the early days? Is it anything similar to that? Since Jack is the oldest, he probably remembers that.
Well, I think in today's day and age, the world is so interconnected with social media, and information is so readily accessible, and I think that's really affected the way that the youth think, because now, we see other people in other parts of the world standing up for the same issues that maybe not the exact same issues, but for their future. And we see them doing that, and we realize that, oh, we have to do that too. So it's like all of a sudden the youth has kind of hit the turning point, and it's like there's no going back now. It's time to hold the people in power accountable for what they're doing or not doing, because at the end of the day, it's our future that they're determining.
There was a lady in the studio earlier, Miss Pat, and I think all of us that know Miss Pat have great respect and admiration for who she is, the person she is, not just her intellect. And she said something that, like almost every time she says things, it just resonates. It's so insightful, and it's almost in a passing comment, like my impression. Hopefully, I'm not talking out of school. You could see it in her that this grave concern for our future prosperity and stability. And she says, we're at this stage in our history, our human history, and I think if anybody wasn't to dismiss that love that she has in just those few little words have conveyed, that we should be so concerned about where we are, we would be doing ourselves a great disservice. Miss Michaela, as Olivia and Rich was sharing, your thoughts. I mean, this time is a great time to be alive. I mean, I think so.
Definitely. I would say that it's not the youth that are, I mean, we definitely are the ones that are being vocal right now, but it obviously wasn't like that initially, and I think the reason that we're trying to speak up right now is because not so long ago nobody was speaking up, and it gets to that point where you're thinking like, oh, who's going to do it? Who's going to say something? And it just takes a couple people to like start pushing this wagon, and then as enough people start listening and people start noticing some small changes, then people start to catch on. And I think that's been really cool that we've kind of been able to get this mindset going. Like as a group, we've seen little small children like walking down the halls and being like, that's plastic, you shouldn't have that plastic bottle. Or like people are just changing their like general mannerisms and adjusting little things in their ways of life. And it's been really cool to be a part of watching everybody kind of join together to work on fixing something that's so important.
Jack, what about you? Just weigh in.
I think I'll just kind of add on to everything that they're saying. Yeah, I think we're super lucky that we're, the group that has enabled youth to be able to speak truly about what's happening currently. But again, I think it's really important that generations are coming together. Like, I just recently had a conversation, and, older generations might be like, oh, what you're doing is great. I'm so happy that this is happening. I'm glad you're fixing the problem. And that's great to hear as well, but I also think that it doesn't mean that you're dismissed from not helping out. And I think that's also, it's almost like an excuse to be like, well, you're fixing it. I think it's really important that although we're speaking to the youth and making sure they have their voices heard, because it's their future, it's not like it's the past generations, not their future either. Like they're affected by it as well. So I think we're trying to get to everyone. Social media has been a great platform to do so, especially since it's so immediate and it can go internationally. The disadvantage of that is making sure that we keep this an important issue. I mean, I know, with social media, things can get prevalent, and then all of a sudden, the next day, it's not as important. And so what we were trying to do is make sure that it was long-lasting, and it has been so far. So we're trying to continue that, that momentum. But I think, again, social media has been a great way, and then communicating to the youth here has been another way that we've been able to reach the youth.
If I may ask then, sometimes, and perhaps maybe too long ago, we were hearing the perception that children to be seen, not heard, and those I say not, and that sort of mentality, thankfully, perhaps is being changed. On the flip side, are we at a risk that some adults, teachers, coaches, parents, other adults in our communities may be trying to inform the agenda, shape the agenda, the outcome, by using the youth? So, for instance, in a university setting, student goes in, the professor is very influential, very passionate about something, very motivated, and some say very persuasive, may cause the students in that class to take a certain issue. That may be the same in high school or in the sports club. Are we at risk that some adults could be helping to influence the decisions, actions of students by the things we're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a question we've been getting a lot recently with, we're being brainwashed by our parents or our teachers that they're giving us ideas and we're kind of, pushing them onto other youth. And I think, that's a big problem area because obviously we're influenced by them, like they're educating us. But we form our own ideas. I mean, we're a strong group of individuals, and we know how to reach out to the youth. I know the people our teachers who were really proud of us for doing this. They're like, "How are you doing it?" Because they're not as informed with how to reach such an international crowd because of social media, for example. So I think, they have influenced us in great ways, but they're not, forming ideas to be put into us and then give to other youth. We can, make our own opinions and then share with others, and then we just work together. And again, that's what I said before, generations working together and coming, Yeah,
man. And I commend you for it. And I hope that we had some students on recently just being concerned about the proposed change in the graduation date for the two high schools here in Ireland. Kimmerback will keep theirs. And I shared it, other callers shared it. Well, I hope you're not going to be victimized or intimidated or whatever for taking a stand. And I thought afterwards, wow, why should you be? If you didn't say anything defamatory, you weren't inflammatory in what you were sharing, you weren't disrespectful, but yet that is a fear that there are going to be victimization and people are going to come up to you, teachers, adults, parents, others. Is that a concern? I mean, I look at Rich and think, no, he's a strapping young man. But what are the thoughts?
We've definitely kind of experienced a bit of that already by a lot of different members of society. They've kind of taken the angle that we're being used,
Yeah, you're good there. Thank you.
We're being used by our parents and teachers, as Jack said. But I think it's just important for everyone to remember that we're each our own people, and you have to give credit where credit is due. The human mind is an amazing thing, and we have the ability to form ideas from what we've learned. And it's not like we're only learning one side. We've learned both sides and then kind of evaluated and analyzed and figured out what side we're on.
There you go. Well, we have a caller on the line, and we'll take calls from those who wish to join us, 949-8037 or 949-6990. We got Jack, Rich, we got Olivia, and we also have Miss Michaela joining us. And man, I feel like I'm in class all over again. Let's go to our phones, though. Good afternoon, welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, good afternoon.
My friend, good afternoon. How are you?
I just want to say hello to your panel. I don't remember everyone's name.
Okay, so Jack, Richard, Olivia, and Michaela.
Well, good afternoon to the young people in the room, and good afternoon to you too, Sterling.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, guys, I just thought I would take this opportunity, because I don't know if I'd ever get the opportunity again, to just congratulate you guys on your efforts. And I think that it's very encouraging to see young people obviously sacrificing not only their time, but all the things that comes along with speaking out publicly. It takes a special person and special people to do so, and I think that it's time now in our history where everybody across the board stand up collectively and be responsible for the actions that we take and for the environment in which we fight so hard to protect. That we all defend it equally, and I think that being a person that is a strong activist myself, I can appreciate where you guys coming from and what you're doing, and I think and I hope that it encourages a lot more younger and old people to do the same and collectively stand against something that we feel strongly about that is not in the best interest of the place in which we call home, regardless of where that is. And I would just like to say that obviously one of the biggest draws to the Cayman Islands, outside of its people, is its environment. And the things that we offer, not only that we're a safe jurisdiction, we're a clean jurisdiction. We have pristine waterways and things that we hold dear to our heart, but yet somehow we've put a dollar value on those things. and willing to send them down the river based on money. And I would just like to make this last point, and then I'll continue to listen in, which I think is a great conversation, is that for any one politician to deem themselves their master of our future and disregard the will and the power and the consensus of the people and not pay attention and take that into consideration and still turn around and do what they feel that they think is in the best interest, regardless of overwhelming public outcry and protest, I think it's an indictment on the integrity of the people of the Cayman Islands, the environment of the Cayman Islands, and the Cayman Islands as a whole. So I encourage you guys to continue doing what you're doing because it's inspiring, even for me, because we're never too old to learn new things. And when we see a paradigm shift such as this take place right before our eyes, where our young people who are range from 15 to 18, I think is the panel you have there, Sterling, correct me if I'm wrong.
16 to 18, yep.
Right, that, that's a diverse variety of people and group of people that are like-minded and who are willing to go out and lead this march. I congratulate you all, and I encourage you to continue doing what you're doing because it can only inspire other people to do the same. So I'll listen in, and like I said, it's encouraging to hear young people on the radio, Sterling. So as many times as often you can get them in.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Producer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
but
you so much.
His comments are sage and timely. I think it's important that we do that. Anything, Jackie, you want to respond? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it warms my heart that people, are listening and they have great feedback. We love constructive criticism too. And, it's just nice that, no matter what age you are, they want to get involved, they want to learn, and they want to save their home. So I just am happy that we get to hear comments like that as well. I know there's the good and the bad no matter what, but it's so nice to hear that. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. We talked earlier, and I'm glad you referenced this idea. You used the word being brainwashed, and unfortunately, perhaps that's sometimes the way we like to say things. Unfortunately. But I look at it this way: critical consumers and thinkers. We ask our educators to instill in our children that they start to become critical thinkers. Here's a topic, dissect it, give me an opinion. When we do that, then we sort of accuse them of some things. Mm-hmm. So as you're becoming critical thinkers, consumers, contributors to society, locally and internationally, as you're seeing the issues unfold, more alike globally than are different, Richard, whether it's environment or economic?
Yeah, I mean, that's really a question really about the world we live in today.
Mm.
And I mean, we, in the studio today, we're from a generation that is completely unlike previous generations in that we grew up with social media, we grew up with the internet. We have, at the touch of our fingertips, access to millions of other people with different mindsets, different opinions, and this exchange of information that we've seen really in the last 20 years with the invention of the internet and the World Wide Web really has ushered in, I think, a new age of critical thinking. And this is something that was not possible, even in my parents' generation because information was so restricted towards a certain area. So I think because of the internet and because of the way the world we live in today, we've been able to both express ourselves and come together as really a global community to assess with ourselves. These are our common goals. These are our common themes. And as you can see here, one of the most common themes is, of course, protecting our future because we are ultimately the inheritors of the earth. And when we have children, we want to see the world we live in not only be the same that we lived in, but even better, even more green, even more clean, and even more safe for our children as well.
All right. When we come back from the break, I want to ask more about your group. What is Protect Our Future? Some of the initiatives, and hopefully give you the opportunity to share with us. Because if we can see and share the perspective, maybe we can be more understanding. Perhaps we can offer guidance. Maybe we can become even equally critical thinkers and constructive commenters and the like. But the notion of crowdsourcing and groupthink and leveraging that relative to this whole idea of the social media platform in which we live in, and affairs and concerns, are we just all one and the same, or are we actually being able to harness the energies and the collective thoughts of millions? And then one of my favorite places, Bacchus. I know Richard said Bacchus. I can't say it like you. Right? So maybe talk about bark-ups. Why is that important? Is it important? And the like. And then, of course, Miss Michaela, she's in the above us with her brilliance as well. So when we come back, the phone lines remain open if you want to guide me to make sure I don't misbehave. You want to ask a question, challenge the intellect of these young people, go right ahead, 949-8037 or 949-6990. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Get set to get wet at the Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th. Be a part of the world's richest open water event with over $100,000 in cash and prizes to be won. 1 in 7 wins. Celebrating 27 years with Swim and Win. Random prizes including smartphones, tablets, airline tickets to London, New York, Rome, Portugal, Dublin, Los Angeles, Brazil, Mexico, Toronto, Montego Bay, and more. No race day registration and limited to 1,000 swimmers. So register online today. Visit flowersseaswim.com for more information. All registration fees will be donated to the Special Olympics Cayman Islands. The 27th Annual Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th. Proud sponsors include the Flowers Group, the Department of Tourism, Davenport Development, the Cayman Compass, Remax, Red Sail Sports, DART, and the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman.
Have you heard of Taster's Choice Cafe, home of the $3 special? With small breakfast and lunch, starting at only $3. You heard right, starting at only $3. Also serving full menu options including curry goat, oxtail, ackee and saltfish. Fill your belly without emptying your wallet at Taster's Choice, 351 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, across from Ashley Furniture in Industrial Park. Or call 945-9113. Taster's Choice, home of the $3 special.
June 26 is International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. Statistics show that positive parenting prevents drug use and other risky behaviors. So parents, on this day and every day, continue to build a strong bond between you and your children and show them that you care. This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
Keeping cool in Cayman is essential, but can be costly. Making small adjustments to your household can lead to big savings and help protect the environment. Keep your blinds, curtains, doors, and windows closed when it's hot outside. Using a fan instead of AC will use less power and can cost a mere third of air conditioning. And when using a fan, rotate it anti-clockwise, which will blow the cool air downward, saving even more energy and money. Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning, and Infrastructure Facebook page for more tips on alternatives to AC and be an energy advocate.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for allowing us the opportunity to share in this democracy. I think on Tuesday, not only because it was the good company of Mr. Loxley Banks, but because through him and the Veterans Association, we get to be reminded today is D-Day. And the idea that some of us, have grandparents and granduncles and uncles and even parents who gave their lives to protect the freedoms and democracy so we can have this right to speak. And then when I had a chance to speak to Mr. Loxley and people like him, I take that responsibility very seriously to go to the polls and to cast my vote. And I cast my vote. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but if it inspires them, great. So to Richard, Olivia, Jack, and Miss Michaela, thank you for sharing with us. Your group, Protect Our Future, just for those who are joining us or may not know. Again, what is it? Tell us a little bit more about it so that maybe I can be better informed as well. Ms. Michaela, you want to start with you?
Sure thing.
Alrighty.
So the Protect Our Future group started, I'd say 4 or 5 months ago. And that's kind of when we sparked our idea. So the initial idea was a digital media project where we went out and we took pictures of these big banners that Jack and Liv made. And they said, depending on what it was, we had 6 different ones. Some of them were our seagrass is our future, our mangroves is our future, ignorance is not our future, our reef is our future, and there are a couple other ones. But we got some really, really amazing images of places that we really, really love on island. And we obviously decided to take it one step further. And so we created, as Jack was talking about before, a social media platform where we started to share these images and explaining them. And I built a website where, if you want to check it out, it's protectourfuture-eco.com. But that kind of...
Say that again, because she's like so something. Come on.
protectourfuture-eco.com. And so there you can find all of the information on the different topics that we were trying to get out into the public eye. But it's just kind of slowly grown and built over time because people do some people really do care about all these places and all these things that we care about so much. And it's kind of just grown from there, and people have been sending us images of them making their own signs, and like we just got one a couple days ago of some kids at the surf beach, and they were standing there like holding their surfboards, and it said
plastic is not our future.
Yeah, plastic is not our future. And so it's just a really cool message to spread that the choices that we make today really do impact us tomorrow and in the long run, and it's just so important for us to always keep that at the front of our mind. Like everything that you do has an impact, every single thing. That's the gist.
So all student-led, student-driven?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. From that perspective then, let's just use plastic for an example. Speaking to, let's say, under 20, 10 to 20, but under 20, individuals in that age group, to them plastic is really, really a serious issue, not just the plastic lines in the water, the six-pack covers that it could do for the fish, but the impacts on the environment. So I was speaking to some students the other day, and I said, what are some of the issues that you think are so significant? It's too much plastic. An adult, a little bit older than me, thought of all the issues facing why plastic. And we had a conversation before I share with you. If there were a number of issues and plastic was one of those things in our society that the youth, child under, if I can say a child, someone 18 and younger would say, well, plastic. To that person who is about 50 or about 40, why in your mind is plastic so important to address?
I would say, it's very funny because just before we went on, I had a little notification on my phone that's which specifically was about a news article that was detailing a scientific study which was released in the last few days, which said that the average person, and I'm reading the title of the study, the average person eats at least 50,000 particles of microplastic a year and breathes in a similar quantity, according to the first study to estimate human ingestion of plastic pollution. And in this study, the scientists pointed towards the consumption of single-use plastic water bottles as being the main contributor towards this ingestion of microplastics. For any of the listeners who aren't aware, microplastics are very detrimental to your health, especially in the health of a developing body, because they act as an inhibitor and as a indicator towards the body's hormonal system that, in short terms, basically mimics it and tells it to produce hormones that it shouldn't naturally be producing, leading towards a variety of adverse effects, whether that be a reduction in human height, a reduction in the development of sexual organs, or even the increase in sexual infertility. So these are health risks. These are risks that are impacting youth today that will continue impacting them long afterwards. And this is, just a variety of reasons that can be detrimental towards you, but besides you as an individual and your health, there is also, of course, the environmental aspect that it's choking up mangroves, weakening their systems. It's choking up turtles, weakening their own systems as well. Plastic is without a doubt one of the most dangerous things that we have invented over the last few decades. And it's so common. It is in such great quantities, and it's so common in our daily lives that really the goal of, the youth of today, and for the goals of everyone, should be reducing it as much, if not eliminating it, as much as possible, because it's impacting us environmentally and our health.
Just really quickly, single-use plastics, because some plastics are beneficial.
Yes, of course.
And I asked that specifically because, honestly, if I think I don't want to say we're the older ones, but if we who are uninformed don't realize what you're sharing, we may think plastic. I mean, surely there are other issues, education, healthcare, but it's more than that. And I appreciate you taking the opportunity to share it. Now, the person under 20 versus the person over 50, having a discussion and not understanding the implications and the impact of plastic. What is it, Jack? Don't put, on a food item, water included, into a plastic bowl and pop it in the microwave.
Right.
We know the ill effects of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like what you said before, I totally agree. There's now discussion happening, and that's why, again, this movement was so important. And so the ages 18 and younger, for example, they might be aware, or may not be, but, they might be aware about the consequences to plastic. They know it's bad. And then, those over 18 might not be aware of it, but at least they're being educated about it. I was just recently talking to someone, and they were telling me, it was an over 18-year-old, and she was saying, do I get paper plates and then allow, she was doing a big event, allow the people involved to just throw it away after they're done eating, or do we get reusable Tupperware and then use a bunch of water in order to clean it? And so then that's when I was like, at least we're having this discussion. That's so fantastic that you're thinking about it, because previously it would just be okay, plastic's easy, we'll use it, throw it away, we don't have to worry about it that much immediately. And so I think that was really nice to see those older really thinking about it. And to my response to that was, I'm just glad that you're thinking about different ways to approach the problem. And, I said, paper might be obviously is a great alternative compared to using plastic, but then, it's a culture and a mindset to be I can now throw it away. So I think it's not only we have to realize that the act of throwing it away makes it seem like it's okay. Do you know what I mean? We're not thinking about it. So to me, I think, having these items that are reusable, tends for people to get in the lifestyle of, reusing things over and over again and not having to just throw things away once and then not use it again. So,
What's the scripture, Olivia? Don't let them despise you because of your youth. I'll come to it in a second what reference there is. Our young people are trying to help to inform the agenda, the political, the public agenda. Some see that as, wow, it's commendable. Others will go, well, that's no place for you. I mean, you're still young, you still have all these. But as I listened to you, you were saying that the decisions today are going to impact us today and for generations to come. Potentially irreversible. How do we get those, whether it's the business and civic community, the political economy, or others, to take note of why we're saying what we're saying, what you're sharing, and the like, so that they appreciate that it isn't anything other than a desire and a true concern for our well-being?
Well, I would say that one of the most important things is giving examples of things that have gone wrong in the past, so that you can learn from the mistakes that history has made. So, plastic is a perfect example. It was invented whenever it was invented. I don't know exactly when.
Richard probably knows.
Yeah, Richard probably knows. And when it was invented, it was this whole big fad, and suddenly everything was made out of plastic. But they didn't know the adverse effects that it would have on humans until now. So that's what we kind of want to stress, don't do things without thoroughly going through the consequences that they may have on the future, you know what I mean? And that's what we're trying to push for the government as well, not to just go through with these plans without thoroughly going through the risks that they may have for our future. And I think that's kind of the whole purpose that we've been doing this, and that we will continue to do this.
In doing this, two things. What are we doing? I say we, sort of, hopefully. And then how are we going to... So, informing through social media, through campaigns like this, the wider public. Jack?
Yeah, well, we were so grateful. We just had a meeting with the Department of Environment with Captain Dwayne Ebanks and Nancy Bernard. And that was a great way in order for the public and youth to be able to communicate with the government, that was crucial. I mean, we know social media can spread quickly, but true action and changes take place when you're able to talk to these government officials because, you know, they have the power, unfortunately, unless we take action. So, you know, that conversation was great. I think it was effective. But again, we had a lot more, you know, questions. But it didn't mean that it was a problem that we had questions afterwards because, again, we're still learning as well. And we gained insight on how the government is, you know, looking at these issues. I think some of the problems, you know, that we're facing is that there is lack of communication between departments. I mean, sometimes, you know, the Department of Environment might not be able to speak on the Department of Tourism with the port. And, of course, they're different departments, but they affect each other. So that's when we're like, okay, well, you should still be informed about this. I mean, we want to be informed. We're trying our best to reach out. But if we don't have the answers for this, we're kind of in a stuck situation where we have to just wait. And, again, that's another problem. There's not a set timeline, so everything is pushed back. I mean, it's like, okay, when are you going to talk to the stakeholders who determine when plastic, you know, the distribution of plastic can be stopped? And they say, you know, we haven't figured it out yet. It's still in initiation. And, you know, I'm glad that they're trying to get it to that state and that stage. But again, we need to have a set timeline because the more we wait, the more it's a problem. So, I mean, we still are waiting for more discussions and meetings with the government. Again, that's super important as well. But, you know, we want them to take action and stop waiting. I mean, it's not going away. So we need both of that.
And that's one of the things, too, is that we have contacted individually. We've contacted the Honourable Moses Kirkconnell, the Honourable Dwayne Seymour, who are respectively the Ministers of Tourism and Environment, as well as the Councillors for Tourism and Environment, Mr. David White and Captain Eugene Ebanks. And Captain Eugene Ebanks was very friendly, and he reached out back to us, and we organized the meeting that Jack was just talking about. Unfortunately, we haven't heard back from the other three MLAs, and this is, in our opinion, it's sad. It's what it is. It's because we are students, we are young, we are youth. We are trying to understand from their point of view, why are they pushing for the port? Why are they pushing for these activities that we find are very harmful towards our future and towards our cultural heritage? And yet they haven't responded back to us. And this is so much of a problem in our government of today. And I know it might sound very political, and it's very important that we keep it straight to the facts, but the fact of the matter is that the government's considering a revision to the National Conservation Law. This is such a crucial part of Cayman's just entire legislative body, and there has been almost nothing public determined about what those meetings going on in Cabinet have went over. There is few, public discussions going on about this crucial law. And why is this law crucial? Because it manages and it regulates when and where developers can build in Cayman. It is one of the bodies which specifically go in between the developer and our environment. It is the piece of legislation which is practically preventing things like the Barker's acquisition from going to full development, because it specifically says, okay, you have to go through the DOE. Then after you go through the DOE, then you have to go through the NCL body, and the NCL body has to approve it. Has to make sure that there's
the National Conservation Council.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the National Conservation Council has to approve it, saying, okay, we find it that it doesn't adversely affect the environment to a large extent, and then it can go in towards things like construction. But what are we seeing is that we're seeing a government that's considering revising it, and quite frankly, the fact that there hasn't been much public discourse about it and it's been quite smoke and mirrors really does lead to a lot of distrust in our government, and it's sad. Wow. It's a crying shame that our government is just refusing to have a public discourse about this, that they're instead opting to work in backroom corridors and trying to really dwindle the power of this law for seemingly personal gain. And I know for me, and I've said this earlier in the week, that I've submitted my Freedom of Information request about the minutes from their meeting, because that should be public information, the day afterwards. They responded back to me, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, that said, we have by law prescribed 30 days to respond back to you about your request.
Okay. Well, see how that works. When we come back, let's talk more, because it's good to see action, and then we can ask you more about some of the things in relation to the National Conservation Council, but equally some of the changes you'd like to see and some actions that we could take. For those who are listening, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Meet the world with Puritan professional launderers and dry cleaners. Call 949-7104 for opening hours at Puritan's Countryside Savannah, Elgin Avenue besides Off the Peg, and 337 Eastern Avenue. Drive through, rain or shine. Ask about Puritan's ongoing discounts, plus free pickup and delivery. Call 949-7104. Puritan's 949-7104.
It's time to stop giving dads tools and ties for Father's Day. Dads want to relax just as much as you. Get the ultimate chillaxing beach kit for Father's Day at Savannah Pharmacy. Beach shorts, shirts, flip-flops, water shoes, goggles, towels, and sunblock. Let Dad kick back and relax this Father's Day. Gift baskets, including domino sets, coffee mugs, and so much more, are also available. Get all of your Father's Day purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
I love my daddy, yes sirree. Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio K-Man for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of K-Man's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio K-Man News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today, and thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for championing a healthy democracy that allows the young and the young at heart alike to be able to publicly engage, to either challenge the status quo or to champion it. And in the studio, the leaders of Protect Your Future, from Michaela to Olivia to Richard to Jack, for joining us. And I think, if I'm wrong, certainly I give you permission to ask you, your guidance. Our education systems, whether it's the formative years, whether it's in university, whether we're doing postdoctorate studies, should be to inform. It should be to enlighten. It should be to empower us so that we can challenge things. And hopefully, as we read something, that we can say, okay, that's not exactly what it is. Maybe with that perspective, we referenced earlier Cortez, for instance. We see her unfolding on the U.S. scene, Richard. Depending on which media outlet you subscribe to, she's a saint or, well, not. But again, how do we in Cayman interpret that? How do we be inspired by it? How do we challenge it? And how do we make sure that the actions here are conducive to a sustainable, healthy, civil, safe society?
Well, I mean, like even with Cortez, it's just the whole journey that she has been through as a representative in the past just 2 years have been incredible. I mean, she started as a waitress from a working class background and went against, a person who used to be a former lobbyist who had all these millionaire connections and defeated him because she had concerns for her own constituents that those people did not feel were being addressed by their own representatives. And I mean, in some ways, we can see the same thing happening in Cayman. We have some constituents don't feel like their representatives are fully representing their interests, or they're only representing the interests of, DART or other corporations. So I feel specifically in Cayman, there is very much the opportunity and the environment for a person like a Cortez to come about who is advocating for these positions because they don't feel as though they are, being swindled or being influenced by these external powers.
What extent, perhaps, Jack, maybe if you don't mind asking you, and certainly Michaela, you weigh in as you wish, right? You know the view equally. To what extent do you think, I use the word education, but I want to, another word comes to mind, but hang on a second. Knowledge, insight, learning, awareness comes into play. So we may have a politician, and I stick to the Cayman stage, that is very much in tune with the community, but isn't as informed about issues. So they have the heart and the pulse of the community relative to maybe being displaced or feeling disenfranchised or disconnected, but is lacking this, and this. Jack,
Right.
how do you...
I just think, knowledge is power. I mean, being knowledgeable and just trying to become as educated as possible is such a gift. We should be grateful for being able to, learn different areas of study and then, form our own opinions. And that's exactly what we're doing. I think, Richard brought up Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, and I think she's a great, representation of the kind of voice we want to emulate. She's someone who, doesn't... She keeps people on their toes, and she asks them direct questions. And, we're trying to work on that too. We want to be respectful, and it's hard. But, we also, want changes. So we're trying to, as teenagers, we're trying to learn to fight for what we believe in and not, not let people push us around because we have our own opinions as well. But I think, I definitely have looked up to her. I think she definitely, she is learning throughout the process as well, and she might make mistakes, but again, she recognizes them. She wants to learn more, and she's asking valuable questions that are valid. So I think that's what we're trying to do as well, and I think, it's working so far, and hopefully it continues in the future. So,
Michaela?
I think something that we could also... Yeah, everything that Jack said, 100%. I think it's...
All of it?
Sure. All of it. Every single word.
Every single word.
Okay. You don't mind, Jack.
I think something that we should really take into account, though, is that learning about this and knowing about this is super important, and that it's not timeless. It's not like we can just keep talking about this and thinking about it and posting about it. We actually really, really, really have to do something because at the end of the day, it's a problem that's growing at a really, really rapid pace. And if we don't do something about it soon, we're going to have nothing to keep fighting for. The whole point of our initiative is to protect something. But if nothing changes at the rate that it's going at right now, we're going to have nothing to protect. And it's going to be really hard one day for everybody to look back and think, wow, we could have done something, but now we can't. And that's just the reality of it. And
you can't ring the bell. You can't see certain things.
Okay. Once the damage is done, it's done. You can't go back and undo it.
It's coming up soon. I mean, people get, afraid that, it's a problem, but they don't see it in the future, or they might not think that it'll be their problem, and eventually one day it will impact them. But again, like Michaela said, if it's at this rate, it'll be really soon, and it already is happening. So,
all right, let's if you're mindful when we come back, actions and changes. What are some of the things you've alluded to? Some. Let's maybe expound on a little further after we come back from our 2 p.m. headline news. The phone lines are there if you want to call and share your thought. You guys have been not only instructive and informative, but very insightful and encouraging, and hopefully it'll challenge some of us as adults, as leaders, as politicians, as politicians, as parents to say, okay, maybe we'll pull you aside and guide you. Maybe we'll draw alongside you and stand in front of you. I don't know. Let's see where it goes. To those who are listening, join us after the break.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Office of the Auditor releases its report on customs in the Cayman Islands and says more needs to be done to strengthen approaches for collecting government revenues and protecting the borders. The report reviewed efficiency and effectiveness and expressed disappointment in the, quote, little progress made to improve the process for revenue concessions. Good afternoon once again. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, a cleanup expedition to Mount Everest has removed 11 tons of rubbish and 4 dead bodies from the world's highest mountain. Cleaners spent weeks collecting food wrappings, cans, bottles, and empty toxic cylinders, and that's according to the Nepal Tourism Department. The 4 bodies, however, were exposed by melting snow and were carried to base camp and then flown to a hospital for identification. A 2-year-old boy has been killed by a leopard in South Africa's Kruger National Park. The leopard managed to access a fenced-off area of the park and grabbed the boy, who was the son of an employee. Family members rushed the boy to hospital, but he was pronounced dead on arrival. And Madonna is the latest star to accuse disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein of making unwanted sexual advances. Hollywood was rocked last year by allegations of sexual assault made against Weinstein, which he denies. The singer said Weinstein crossed lines and boundaries when they worked on her 1991 documentary, Truth or Dare. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. And again, thanks to Richard, Olivia, Jack, and Michaela for joining us. And I say this hopefully, especially for our adults, that as we listen, we'll help. If we're the parents of children like you, can I say children? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Sorry, I forget sometimes that we understand. You're concerned, you have a vested interest. Maybe we are on the other side of the coin and we're not able to fully appreciate. Well, why are you sharing this? Well, hopefully, I think earlier the comment was from, if she doesn't mind me sharing, Suzanne Bothwell, the court administrator, saying, be patient when we're listening to others, especially to our children, our students. They may take a while. Is that one of the challenges that we're having? We're not being patient, we're not being tolerant, we're not being nurturing, we're not providing that safe environment?
Yeah, I mean, we want to make sure that, I think, patience is key in the sense that, it takes time, but it doesn't mean that you can't start now. And, we don't want to keep waiting like we've been saying. It's something that we're all passionate about, and other youth has been really passionate about too. I mean, just on Instagram alone, people have been direct messaging us saying, how do I get involved? How do I be part of this movement? And, our response is, go out and do it. I mean, nothing's stopping you from, starting another movement or contributing to the same one we're doing. We just started this from, bringing minds together and talking about it and then, taking action. So that's what's so great about, social media in that sense. And we've been able to, get people to get involved. And again, as well, it's reached an international audience. So we're also trying to push, if government isn't taking action here, another, method to hopefully, get this going is for, international governments to put pressure on our local government in order for them to be like, okay, I need to wake up. This isn't something that we can just keep pushing to the side.
All right. So 2 things then. The idea that we should exercise some patience, tolerance, acceptance, all these good values and virtues in speaking to people. But I think you shared earlier, how much longer can we wait? Can we be patient relative to the things that may be needing addressing now? Ms. Michaela?
Yeah, I think, as I said before, it's a time-sensitive thing that we're dealing with here, and it really is time for people to start taking action. And I think a big question that we've been getting a lot of is, how do I take action? What do I do? What am I supposed to do? And also, what's kind of the general purpose of our movement. So kind of our goal when we came together is we really do want local change. So we want to hear times and days, that would be great, of when these laws are going to be put into place that limit coastal development, because we don't have that much. I mean, we have some beautiful coastal land that's still there and still untouched, but like what we have left, we really, really, really need to protect, because if it's not protected, then it's just going to end up looking like the rest of our beaches that have been damaged by things that are being built. So we are also looking, hopefully, for a plastic ban. Other places, Jamaica's done it. I think Antigua's looking into doing it. Bahamas, that was the other one. Yeah, so they've all banned plastic, single-use plastics, and we can do it too. That's the thing that I think really just needs to be understood. Like, it's going to be a little difficult to get used to at first, but we can do it. So yeah, we're looking for a change in these laws, hopefully, and then also just kind of general actions that you can do. We're just asking everybody to start thinking about it, and when I say thinking about it, hopefully that will quickly grow into things like not using takeout containers, like bringing your own containers, using reuse, and think about when you throw something away. Like, when you throw it away, do you ever really think about where it goes? Like, I'm guessing you don't, or maybe some of you do, but it's super important to realize that when you throw something away, it doesn't just go away. Like, it goes somewhere, it goes to the dump, it goes into the ocean, and then as Richard was saying before, it turns into microplastic, and guess what? It ends up right back into our bodies, and I think that's something super important to understand too.
And that's a very important point that Michaela touched on, as well as the whole legislative aspect of pushing forward both activism as well as legislation over protecting our future, as well as because we have as our duty as citizens our duty to call on our government to say we have these really detrimental effects that are impacting us now, and we want you to take all the steps that you can possibly take, regulation, the imposition of high tariffs on these goods that are directly coming in and kind of leaving us with no other choice. Because if we don't really call on our government and say, Antigua has done it, Bahamas have done it, Jamaica has done it, Aruba has done it, and these are all countries, islands with, either, and I think specifically with Aruba, it's a country with a similar sized population, a similar sized island density, and they have a GDP less than Cayman. I believe Cayman has a higher GDP than Aruba, and yet Aruba is taking these radical steps, and Cayman's not. And so the whole aspect that we don't have the monetary or the monetary resources is simply wrong. We do have the monetary resources, because if Aruba can do something so similar with less money, then we as Cayman can take that action even further. And I know, like, it is a youth concern at the end of the day, this whole legislative process, because even if we look towards the functions of other youth organizations on island, whether that be the Cayman Islands Youth Parliament, for instance, this year they had a debate about the regulation of single-use plastic bags. And I will say from now, it was such a heartfelt moment for me when I was involved in that process, because when I was debating on the merits of the bill, I felt that I was taking the role of an MLA in some ways, that I was the one pushing forward for change in this capacity. And it is such a heartwarming feeling, I would say, to feel that you are doing something that you know is right, that you know is going to be for the betterment of your constituents and your people. And the people who were opposed to the bill, they weren't opposed to the bill because they said it was not necessary or it's 10 years, 20 years away. They were opposed to it because they said it didn't go far enough. They said it shouldn't have been only plastic bags. It shouldn't have been single-use plastic water bottles. It should have been single-use single-use plastics in general. These were arguments that said we needed to go further. And we do need to go further, and we need to push our government to go further. We don't need inaction, we need action. And when we need action, we need radical action. Because if we don't have radical action in the form of banning single-use plastic bags or regulating it, then we're just going to end up having to bear the consequences down the line.
Let me ask now, Richard, from the perspective of economics and then the mindset. Let's take first off the notion, as Michaela was sharing. If we go out to eat, for instance, we've ordered our meal and it's just too much, so let's not waste it. We take it. The practice, I believe, is the restaurant will package something and will take it away, whether or not that is something that is biodegradable or recyclable, what have you. Maybe you're sharing. Take your container with you, give it to the server and package it. That's a mindset. I mean, how much we're willing to do that?
Yeah. I mean, there definitely is the cultural aspect, which is the mindset of just being able to use it one and done. That you only use it once and you throw it away.
Right.
So there is that cultural perception that needs to be, it has to be challenged, and it has to be changed within our education systems to say, move away from this, educate the, the very young people of the Cayman Islands to say, this is not sustainable, this is not healthy, this is directly going to impact you in the future, because there is simply not the capacity in Cayman to handle with these large quantities of single-use plastics. But then again, legislation is ultimately, again, the key here, because when you legislate and you say these just cannot be legally allowed in Cayman in such large quantities, then the whole choice
there is no choice then.
Yeah, exactly. When you, it's one of those arguments that it's, again, sometimes the government has to push people to do the right thing.
Okay.
Sometimes people are very lazy, and we have to accept that that's part of human nature at times, that people are just unwilling to change.
Right.
So it's government's really duty, I feel, to step in and say, we know that this is a direct result of your actions, and we are representing your best interests. Even if you might not think it's your best interest, it is in your best interest to not use these.
So
because
before I ask you about economics, you wanted to jump in, Jack?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I agree with everything that they're saying, but I also think, again, it's not like we're not making mistakes. It's, I think people get afraid that we might be attacking them, or that, if they haven't been a part of a similar movement or taking action now, that it's too late, that, we're going to shame them for not joining in now. And I think that's a really bad trap to fall under, because it's not like we don't make mistakes either. I mean, we just try really hard to be conscious consumers, and that's what we're trying everyone to be as well. You are at a restaurant and you see a bartender maybe getting you a plastic straw and being like, okay, wait, if I can do it quickly, can I ask them, please, can you not use a straw, for example? These are small steps that you can take. Obviously, like I said before, you can't be perfect. There's going to be times where you slip up, but it doesn't mean that once you slip up, you fall into that trap again and being like, okay, it's okay, I made a mistake, I can't, do it again. So I just want people to know that even though you make mistakes, it doesn't mean that you can't learn from them and then try to do better. I mean, that's what we're doing all the time.
You want to jump in? Because I want to ask you about the economics side of things. Any comments?
Lastly.
Yes, not lastly. Go right ahead.
Okay. You can, what Jack was saying, you can always try again and try again and try again and try again, because we're humans and we make mistakes, and that's what happens. But as I said before, just back to that whole idea that overall, this whole entire movement on islands, locally, if you're thinking in the grand scheme of things, there's going to get to a point where, as a society, we won't be able to try again.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
Just if you're looking at it on the big picture. But right now, everybody keep thinking about it and try
I don't
again.
want to say we make mistakes in the sense where, okay, now that's an excuse. Okay, I made a mistake. Let's just keep making mistakes. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that in the sense of, it's not like it's too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. We can't keep saying it's mistakes and then, it's not a mistake anymore when you keep doing it. It's just a routine.
Yeah. Don't let it become a routine.
Yeah.
If it's a routine, just try and wean yourself off of it and think about it.
But it goes both ways. So then the consumer, for instance, in the example, needs to be empowered. Needs to know, I can ask, don't do that. The server, the supplier on the other end needs to be receptive.
Yeah.
And there are instances where I'm not young and hip like you guys and aware, but I would ask for something or say, no, not that, please, and this is why. And they'll give you a look like, What are you, weird? Yeah, you just learned that now.
Right.
But I'm confident. So when we come back, because the boss is over there, you think she was just there for her looks? No, she's in charge. And I'm not talking about your mum, Richard. Susan says we have a last break. When we come back to economics, some of these things can cost. You talked about the tariffs and the like. Is that one of the potential impediments to not doing these things? To my mind, it's probably cheaper. I don't have to give you a straw, so I don't have to spend the money on it. But do I have to give you something in return? Let's talk about that a bit and then wrap up our conversation. Wow, I may have a job tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
CUC advises customers on Seaview Road in East End that they will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Tuesday, June 11th between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Areas affected include all customers from the junction with Frank Sound Road and Seaview Road to Health City Cayman Islands, including Cedar Lane, Tangelo Lane, and Sterling Lane. Health City will not be affected by this outage. Motorists are asked to drive with caution when utilizing Seaview Road, as CUC will have a number of vehicles and personnel in the area. CUC apologizes for this interruption, which is necessary to facilitate required overhead infrastructure upgrades to provide our customers with safe, reliable, and efficient power. For more information on the outage and streets affected, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Have you heard of Taster's Choice Cafe, home of the $3 special? With small breakfast and lunch starting at only $3. You heard right, starting at only $3. Also serving full menu options including curry goat, oxtail, ackee and saltfish. Fill your belly without emptying your wallet at Taster's Choice, 351 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, across from Ashley Furniture in Industrial Park. Or call 945-9113. Taster's Choice, home of the $3 special.
Did you know in the 15 years that we've been discussing the berthing facility, our competitors have pressed on with construction and now welcome the larger ships that pass us by? It's time we build our piers.
Looking forward, looking bright.
Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much. From Bosun Bay to Gun Bay, from Spot Bay to West Bay, we got some wonderful students in our society, and I hope and pray that as parents, educators, and as politicians, that we are willing to be receptive to help to guide you, because I don't know about you all, but I probably made plenty of mistakes already today alone. Chances are tomorrow, if I'm alive, I'll make even more, but hopefully I'll learn from those. But I'm encouraged and inspired by you guys, your passion, your enthusiasm, the charisma, the charm, but also the willingness to speak up, stand up, and we're called to, sort of take up the baton, take up the mantle, stand in the gap, and you guys are doing just that. Now, what is it that they say? I mean, Richard was once the budding scientist. Now he's probably just going to study economics, right? Equal and opposite reactions. Everything has a consequence. If we were to do certain things, would it be the economic considerations going to cost more, going to cost too much, so we better not do that? Are those things that serve as a hindrance to us doing and not doing?
Well, I mean, it is a commonly used sort of perception that we can't implement these, very ambitious policies because it's going to cost too much, or it's going to be hard on the consumer side of things. Maybe there's going to be increasing prices in goods. And that is a very interesting aspect to consider, but at the end of the day, we have to consider that if we don't do actions now, and because of our inactions in the past, we have to even do further actions. If we don't do further actions now, then we, in all honesty, risk losing everything in the future. Like, if I'm going to bring up the cruise port, for instance. The government says that there's going to be great additional revenue going to be brought to the Cayman Islands in the form of the tourism industry. But if you remove the coral in the area, you remove, all the environmental protections that help prevent against sea rises during northeasterns, or you help prevent sea rises during hurricane season, then you're really just gambling with people's livelihoods, because then if there is another Hurricane Ivan and you have these cruise ports in, the protections that really saved a lot of the town area are gone, and you can see a complete and utter devastation of the area. And it's just so disheartening that we look at short-term economic benefits in the form of the port instead of long-term economic benefit. The long-term economic benefit is a complete overhaul of Cayman towards a sustainable economy, towards a future that can be sustained generation to generation. Quite frankly, the current tourism model we have is unsustainable. We need to rely more on things like ecotourism that are found in places like Costa Rica. And why do we need to look at those places? Because they value their heritage that is tied to the environment. We come from a seafaring culture. We come from a culture that is based in the livelihood of the sea. And if we start yanking out the very environmental protections, or the very environment that we used to call home and we used to call our culture, then we're just left with really nothing that really connects back to our history. And again, referring back to the economics argument of it, the fact that long-term gain has not been the focus of this government, that the long-term gain has been ignored in favor of short-term economic benefits, is really just a sign on how different perspectives are. The fact of the matter is that we need to look sustainably at Cayman. We need to look at a tourism model that can be passed on generation to generation, not simply affects one generation and then, maybe a generation later, all those tourists fled somewhere else because now, say, Antigua has adopted a similar model and they also have good beaches or something like that. Because the fact of the matter is, one of the defining aspects that sets Cayman apart from any other Caribbean nation, any other Caribbean island, is our beautiful environment. It is our beautiful beaches. It is our, amazing oceans. And if we don't conserve those areas, if we don't protect those areas, if we don't, enable our economy to really emphasize these areas and protect them, then we just are not left with anything that we really can call home anymore.
Another problem that we've been facing is after our demonstration in front of government building, we've had a couple comments from different people in the community saying, you're not educated on both sides of the argument, you don't know both sides, you're only looking at one perspective. But by reaching out to the different ministers, that's our way of trying to become more educated on the different sides, but we're not being taken up on that. So I'm just posing the question, how are we supposed to become educated if the very people that are supposed to educate us haven't replied to any of our emails yet? I understand that they're busy and have very important jobs, but it would be nice to just get some sort of response, as it is them that we need to learn from if we want to keep going with what we're doing in a very respectful and sustainable manner.
And something that we were talking about earlier is how important it is to recognize that all decisions that a country make are not just based off of one sector. We always have to think about the economy, and we have to think about the environment, and we have to think about the social aspects of things. I feel like I'm probably missing a couple. But everything is very important, and they all tie in and interact with each other, because if you take one out, everything goes off balance, and if you take the other out, everything still goes off balance. So, I think right back to what Liv was saying, we do understand the importance of knowing both sides of an argument, and that's something that we really value, and it would be super, super, super great for our initiative and for our goals for the future if we were able to get that opportunity to have that conversation and to kind of just be able to share our ideas, and then to really get to engage and hear some responses that would be constructive towards what we're trying to do.
To broaden our own mindsets, because we don't want to have a limited mindset. That's the last thing that we want.
All right. We do have a caller as we go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, my friend. How are you?
Okay. I just want to congratulate the youngsters for having a cause and championing their idea. the whole issue with plastic and pollution is definitely something everybody should challenge. For me, I personally, chopsticks is one of my new things. I've been doing that for November 2017. But I did wanted to get the input from the youngsters on the excess of the sargassum seaweed and how that is causing a challenge, and their input as to how do we clean the oceans now that we have plastic and the excess of the sargassum weed. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Kayla, who wants to jump in?
I'll start us off.
All right, go ahead.
So sargassum grows in warm ocean water. Like, that's why we have particular seasons for it. That's why we get so much of it, an abundance of it at specific times of the year. And now, obviously, because we keep on producing these single-use plastics and we are creating these fumes that weren't created long ago, when there were just particular seasons when we experienced lots of sargassum. Now with global warming and the oceans are warming, that's why we have so much of it. And the only way that we can make those changes happen is if we limit not what we're making, but what we're using, what we're consuming. And as we've kind of been talking about this whole time, if we become more conscious, I'm sure Richard can build on that idea, but that's the simpler version.
Well, I feel like I always have something to say. But it is really the international aspect that we, as an organization, are also trying to provoke as well, is that the issues that are affecting Cayman are issues affecting Cayman, of course, but there are also issues affecting other Caribbean nations. There are issues that other nations around the world are also facing, whether that be in the South China Sea, in the Caribbean Sea, or even potentially in the Indian Ocean, for instance. Because ultimately, our climate is intertwined with the world. The actions of, say, China, America, Europe, they have a byproduct via the production of emissions on our way of life because of the rising sea temperatures. And it is ultimately an international effort, and that is something that a lot of countries recognized 20 years ago when they came together in Japan to form the Kyoto Protocol, and then more recently in Paris for the Paris Climate Agreement. And it's ultimately a failure on a lot of international governments and international organizations that they haven't been able to put other individual countries' feet to the fire and say, we have to cut down global warming because the effects have been known, because the effects are being shown, and because the future effects, if not being curtailed, are so disastrous for agricultural production, for livelihoods in general, to the risks of increased drought. And I know this is something my colleagues can further expand upon in terms of climate change. But the fact of the matter is that we shouldn't limit ourselves to just saying, well, Cayman did all this nice stuff, that's it. We need to be saying, how can Cayman, global position of practically the financial capital of the world, can position itself and its status in the world stage to influence other nations to do the same.
Lead by example. We have time for one quick final call. All right, let's go to our phones. Good afternoon and welcome. You want to talk today?
Yeah, good afternoon, Dwayne, and good afternoon to the young and intelligent panel you got on there. And I'm 110% behind you guys, because the young people need to stand up now for what they know is right, because they're more aware of stuff today than some of these people that are supposed to be governing on us. And I'm so saddened to see, and I know you guys have to see it, but the number of cars we have in this island now, all because somebody's making a couple of dollars on import duty. And, it just breaks my heart to think that in 10 years what Cayman is going to look like. You're going to have, I want you guys to imagine now, you get those cruise ships up at that dock there, and everybody decides to come ashore at one time. And what Georgetown's going to look like. And then if you got traffic running up and down them roads, which I don't know what they're thinking. I really don't know. But I want you guys to continue to fight, because it can be your island. It is your island, but you're going to be the ones that's going to have to put up with most of this crap if we don't do something about it now, because we don't need, let me just put it this way, you were talking about sustainability. That's something, I'm an architect, right? And when I came home in 1986, I started implemented code for buildings. I was the first one to put building codes in here. They had a building regulation, but there was no code. I started implementing code, and then I was doing things like for handicapped people and all that kind of stuff, Then I start talking about, the way we should build, widen the stairs, widen the corridors, and build all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm not doing this to brag about anything. I'm saying that I was so concerned about what I saw happening, how, the construction business. Now today, they have codes, but they're code violations that I see happening here, and I don't know how it's happening, but the buildings go up, and it's got to be about money. Mm-hmm. It's all about money. The more, the merrier. And down the road, well, I don't want to predict what's going to happen, but I can tell you that we're going to lose tourism, we're going to lose a lot of things, and we're going to be like a third world country if we don't watch what we're doing.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a good afternoon, and God bless you all.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
all
you.
Right. Really appreciate it. And if you need, wish, have time, or desire, the invitation is always come back on collectively with all your colleagues as well. May I invite you quickly for some closing thoughts, perhaps, Jack?
Yeah, I just, we're so also grateful that we're able to continue these discussions. I just want everyone to understand that, this is something that, will not go away. Like we said before, it's our future. Our future's at stake, and if we don't take action now, we're going to be in so many consequences that I don't even think we can even imagine, because it's just so extreme. But then again, what we're doing is, making sure that people understand that our reefs are important. Seagrass, mangroves, these are things that are crucial to Cayman. And, plastic and single-use plastic is something that's not. It's a detriment to our environment, and environments all over the world. So we just want to make that very clear, because I think sometimes, we might seem like we're asking for so much, and what we want to see becomes sometimes unclear, but we just want to make sure that, we want to protect our environment, and things that are hurting the environment and its people, like plastic, is something that we need to get rid of.
All right. Richard?
Well, we need to be thinking bigger, bolder, and better when we think about actions that can be taken. Ultimately, what we have to do is we have to hold our government to account. We have to ask them continuously, are you representing the best interests of the people? Mm-hmm. Are you pushing forward their interests in every possible manner? And ultimately, it is also the role of the youth to become, very passionate and vocalize their thoughts about why do they, because if we don't vocalize the youth of today, we run the risk of raising an apathetic generation. And an apathetic generation is the last, is probably one of the most disastrous things you can have to the political health of a country. So we must vocalize the concerns of the youth, because they will end up inheriting the world. And if we don't take steps and measures to do so, we might find ourselves in a very unforgiving future.
Miss Olivia?
I'd just like to firstly say thank you to the last caller for calling in. What he said, picture Cayman in 10 years, really resonated with me, because that's one of the reasons that I'm a part of this. I'm so terrified of going off to university and coming home and not recognizing the island that I come back to, because of the mass development that may potentially happen. I'm so terrified of losing the reefs and the mangroves and the seagrass that I grew up with and that my grandparents grew up with. And that's really why we're doing what we're doing. Those are the things that we want to protect, and that's what we want to see government keep in mind, that yes, we are asking for a lot, but it's so important, and it's so crucial to our future and the future of the Cayman Islands as a whole, to keep these things healthy and to keep our island healthy.
I just really don't want us to look back sometime in the future and regret or wish that we had done something and that we hadn't have done. And so I'm really hopeful that as a collective we can come together and make some decisions that, like Liv said, that will protect us from having that moment in the future where we look back and we're just disappointed that we didn't do something.
I think sadly that disappointment that you may have would fall in the laps of me and my generation as the adults today, the parents and the like. So hopefully we don't disappoint you, but hopefully you keep having opportunity to be heard, and certainly appreciate the courage that you've shared. So enjoy the rest of your day. Jack, thanks for taking the lead, my friend.
Come on.
And I really appreciate it. You guys are inspiring to our listeners. If we can continue to nurture our students, give them opportunities to learn, to be informed, to contribute, perhaps we can draw alongside, perhaps we can help to go before them. This is our future together, right?
And of course, if there's anyone who wants to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at protectourfuture-eco.com or on Instagram at instagram.com/protectourfuture.eco or on Facebook at facebook.com/protectourfuture.eco.
All right, Protect Our Future, man. It's a good place. The song, I think Michaela was sharing. Susan, what's that song? You can do it if you really try. Try and try. So the whole song, somebody will remember that.
She's getting into it.
Yeah, she's going to find it. But so it can be done.
Yes.
Listen, you guys continue to, do great things and have not just a successful life, a safe one, but a very, very rewarding one. To our listeners, I have the great privilege and honor tomorrow to welcome to our studio Mr. Roy Borden, not as only a former Minister for Education, former President of UCCI, author, historian, but a very involved, informed gentleman, and it's always a distinct pleasure to be able to sit next to him. So looking forward to having that discussion tomorrow. Sort of continuing the vein of the youth, He is still young at heart. So looking forward to having Mr. Borden join us tomorrow. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
After all that talk, sit back,